On today's episode of the CLS Experience, with a very exclusive treat. She's the founder of the Prairie Homestead, an online space with over 1 million monthly visits dedicated to helping people learn how to grow their own food and opt out of the rat race, regardless of where they live. No big deal. She authored her best-selling book, The Prairie Homestead Cookbook, which won Best Cookbook, and her ability to make cooking fun and exciting is second to none. She's the host of the Old Fashioned on Purpose podcast, which has amassed over 5 million downloads. And she also runs Genuine Beef Company with her family, where they ship grass-finished beef nationwide. Big facts. She has been featured in Urban Farm, Farm and Ranch Living, Cowgirl Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, People, and BuzzFeed, just to name a few. Her ability to showcase what's possible living off the land is second to none. And she's here to teach you how to make the most of your atmosphere and thrive. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific wife and mother. Please welcome the resourceful, creative, and innovative, the beautiful and brilliant, abundant Jill Winger. How you doing, Jill?
I'm great. That was a heck of an introduction. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. You feeling elevated? Did good by you?
I feel very elevated. Yeah. I could climb a mountain right now. So
good. Mission accomplished. We were having an awesome conversation before we hit record, and then we're probably like, let's save some of the juicy stuff for the show.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for this episode specifically because you're so unique and you're one of a kind. I mean, we all are, but essentially our audience is in for a treat in regards to, I don't think they've heard something quite like this one before. What I would suggest to our listeners, if you're not familiar with Jill, do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the awesome stuff she has going on. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
I suppose. Yeah, let's do it.
Jill, when you wake up every day, for you personally, what are some non-negotiables for you?
Yeah. So I like to get outside first thing in the morning, if at all possible, get some of that morning light. If I can, if we're not, just full speed ahead first thing, I like to drink my coffee outside if it's not 30 below zero. And sometimes it is. So sometimes I don't go outside. I think my favorite mornings are where I just have 30 minutes to sit outside, maybe put my feet in the grass and read a little bit of a book before we start the day. So those are some of my favorite morning rituals.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading Wendell Berry, The Need to Be Whole. So
good
one of my favorites. Yeah, it's real good. He's, I think, my favorite author of all time. He's kind of an agrarian philosopher. So good stuff.
I love it. You may not have a book coming out soon too, right?
I do. Yes. My second Old Fashioned on Purpose. So yeah, getting ready to birth that out into the world. It's like having a baby you've never had a baby, but you've had the book process. So it's similar to having a baby for sure.
It's so funny. And I'll acknowledge him. My good friend, John Asroff, you may even know from The Secret. I'm doing a book tour now, and we connected a week ago, and he said, because he's written a plethora of books,
yes,
he described this analogy, and I thought it was really funny. He said, writing a book is like having sex, and pushing the message and campaign, all that is like raising a child.
That is so true, man. Yes. It is not a one and done thing. You are in for the long haul. Yeah.
Yes. And to be honest with you, we're super excited about our book, but I can't wait to exhale. But I'll say this. I used to see people like get their book and open the box and their reaction. Sometimes I thought it was like corny. I didn't know what to expect. When it happened to me last week and I got the book and I put it in my hands for the first time, I got really emotional, and it was such a surreal moment. And it wasn't because of the hard work that goes into actually writing the book, and I don't want to diminish that. But for me, it was like the 35 years of life experience, the ups and downs, setbacks, the struggles, that kind of cultivated my reinvention to produce the book. And I was just curious, like, did you get emotional from your first one? Are you emotional about the second one? What was that like for you?
Yeah, definitely surreal. And it's so funny you brought it up. I had that experience actually a few hours ago. I walked into our shop and there was a whole bunch of boxes and I'm like, what is this? What did I order? And it was the book. I didn't know it was coming this week. So it was actually just a few hours ago. And yeah, it's just, I know the material well, so it's not like a shock to see it packaged because I've been over the proofs and the manuscript like 1,000 times, but it's just like you said, that moment of like, this was in my brain and it was just this little ethereal thought. And now it's in real life in front of me in hardcover form. And it's all of the work and many decades of life that go into just that manuscript. It's not just even just the writing process. There's so much to it. So it's just totally surreal. It's even hard to put it into words.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have and I didn't mean to talk all about the book today, but this is kind of cool. Straight off
Yeah.
the, do you have a process when you start writing? Like, do you have a system that you could duplicate when you're in writing mode?
Yeah. I mean, I love hearing other people's writing techniques. I'm like obsessed with listening to, authors talk on podcasts. Mine is maybe a little more, I don't know. It just kind of, it goes more ad lib as I go through the process. I definitely do a lot of outlining. This last time it was outlines and whiteboard outlines, and I tried some sticky note outlines. But then kind of once I got into the flow, I would work on a chapter at a time, but I kind of had to let just the creative flow happen. And so, it was within structure, but not. So
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a great system to duplicate, but that's how I do it.
works for you.
It works for me. Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you do the whole Evernote super strategic spreadsheet it out with yours?
Not really.
Yeah.
What I did was, while he came to us, it felt good. I renegotiated a big book deal, and then they had a tight turnaround. So I'll never forget. I went to the New York City Library. I wrote for a couple hours. I thought I wrote half the book. I came back and I transferred it to a Word document, and it was like maybe 2,000 words. I need to get to
Yes.
50. I'm like, oh my God, I need a system here. So I'll never forget December 2022. I woke up every single day at 4 a.m., a little bit earlier than usual. It's pitch black out. And I sat in my living room and I just wrote for about an hour, hour and a half every day.
Yeah.
And I made one promise to myself. I would not reread or make edits. I would just brain dump from straight. And it started to flow and it came to me and the book started to write itself and it was beautiful. And I was done in 1 month. But I also had this I never really spoke about this. I had I guess an outline that you would call it on the side with potential chapter names, but it would also be like a theme. So I didn't have to think about what was next. I kind of just went to my outline and it was like, oh, it's time to talk about this. So I did have a little bit of that, and it was very organized for me, and it's definitely something I could duplicate in the future.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I bet you will duplicate it in the future for the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, those early mornings are key though. I found, it's hard to get out of bed to write, but once I did that, I felt so much better throughout the rest of the day, knowing I got the writing in, I checked it off the list, and that definitely helped.
Yeah, it's funny you said there'll be another one in the future. For right now, I don't even want to think about writing another book, the whole process or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, who knows, 6 months now, we'll see.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I thought the same thing after each of my 3 children, and I kept having more. So I'm like, never again. And then here we are. So I think books are somewhat similar in that regard. We'll see. We'll see what you think in 6 months.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
One more fun one and weird one before we dive in. What is your superpower?
I don't know. That's a great question. I'm pretty resilient, which is something I've had to develop over the years. So I can get kicked pretty hard, figuratively in business, in projects, in a lot of roadblocks, and I can just come back up kicking. So I think that's been one of my biggest superpowers in all the crazy business ventures and projects we've done, is just being able to take the hit and then keep on trucking.
Yeah. And I had some obstacles this week as well, unforeseen, unpredictable ones. And I got to tell you, I probably have a little bit more gray hair in my beard than I ever did this week.
Yep.
But also, as an entrepreneur, this is going to sound a little nuts, but there's also something a little fun about it, like navigating the obstacles, problem solving. And no one said it was going to be easy. We just said it would be worth it, right?
Yeah. I talk about that in my book a lot. And it's really parallel to just the homestead lifestyle, because everything we do at our homestead is harder than necessary. We don't have to milk a cow. We could get milk at the store. I don't have to grow tomatoes. I could get tomatoes at the store. But there's something about choosing into that harder path. And I think it's the exact same thing as an entrepreneurship mindset, that when we're doing the hard thing, and there's definitely days where I know I'm getting gray hair and I'm I had tech issues yesterday on a live webinar. I was just devastated. It was so frustrating. I was super stressed out, but I still wouldn't trade it for the world, right? There's that challenge and you don't like it when you're in the moment, but when you overcome it and you figure it out, it feels real good. And I think there's something to that we modern humans, we often miss that in all of this ease and convenience we have floating around.
You nailed it. And we're going to come back to all that stuff, but I have something really, really important to ask you. You ready for me?
I am ready. Yes.
What's the deal with that cheeseburger salad?
Oh, cheeseburger salad. Were you on the blog looking at recipes?
Yeah, it looks unbelievable.
Yes. It's good. Have you tried it? Have you tried a version of it? No, but I would try it. Yes. It's just a quick win supper, especially if, a lot of people are gluten free or they're going low carb. So you get all the meat, you get all the veggies, you get all the sauce, but you won't miss the bun. I'm not against buns. I'm going to say that we do eat bread around here, but even then it's still pretty good. Yeah.
I love it. So I don't want to talk too much about your story because I encourage the audience to play catch up and see what's
Yes.
going on. But you made it a major shift in your life and you chose this lifestyle. And I think it's so beautiful and pure and organic. And I'm just curious, was there one specific reason as to why, or like how did that part come about?
Yeah. The shift, it's interesting because I had the spark in me. I've had that intuitive leading since I was a very small child. I was very much encouraged, maybe not directly, but indirectly by family, friends, culture, whatever, that wasn't possible. Just like kind of just stop worrying about it, Jill, sit down, shut up and go do the normal person thing. And so I think I kind of stumbled into it, maybe subconsciously following my gut, but also just kind of fumbling along. But I think the thing that really ultimately pulled me into this lifestyle was the feeling of being a producer and not just a consumer. And when I started to dabble in that, like the dopamine was incredible. I became instantly obsessed. And that's kind of what has been my guiding light throughout the process.
Yeah. So I imagine people are understanding what you're about right now. And like, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, it really varies. We're very much seasonal here. So, my summer schedule's different than
Let
my
everyone
winter.
know where here is.
Yes, Wyoming. So we get winter for about 8 months out of the year. It can be very cold, very brutal. So right now, the time of this recording, it's beautiful. It's kind of hot outside. And so a lot of our day is spent working in the garden. Yesterday we were out riding horses, out checking cattle in the backcountry. I'm still in and out of the office during the summer, recording podcasts or working on book stuff because I still, entrepreneurs still have business things to do, but it's definitely more outside driven. Now in the winter, when it's blowing, I mean, we get winds that are literally 90 to 100 miles an hour sometimes in the winter. It's like hurricane winds. I'm not going to be outside as much. So we do chores and then we get back towards the wood stove as fast as we can. We homeschool. So a lot of our day in the winter is spent around the table doing schoolwork. And then afternoons are usually projects, whether that's in the kitchen, I'm playing with new bread recipes, or I'm in the office doing stuff here. So it just kind of depends on the time of year. But I kind of like all the different aspects where I can, be in the office for a couple hours and then I'm out in the garden and then I'm on a horse and then I'm working cattle. So I just like the change of scenery.
Totally get it. Is there anything you miss or would be interested in experiencing in like a big city?
So I've never lived in a big city. Like the town I was raised in was about 25,000 people. So not huge. I don't know. Every time I go to a big city, I just want to come back home. So maybe I need to expand my horizons more, but there's not a whole lot there. Sorry, there's a fly. If I'm waving, it's not trying to get your attention. It's the fly trying to land on my nose. But I don't know. I think it's fun to experience new places. I don't mind traveling, but there's nothing there that makes me wish I would stay there permanently.
Yeah, I love it. And I imagine like where you're at right now, like there's more time. And I was checking out your content, which I highly suggest everybody to immediately follow this episode. And you were kind of talking about like they're just needing time to think and be and maybe allow. And something that I've been working on a lot is like I was always in my masculine energy, do, grind.
Yes.
And one thing I learned over the last year and a half, 2 years, which has been huge for me, is to tap into my feminine energy. And when I think of the feminine energy, I think of allow and be. And I think
Yeah.
a good place to find commonality is somewhere in the middle, because I think there's a season for both. But are you familiar with the feminine energy? And would you agree that's kind of like how it is out there, maybe more allow and be and think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that analogy too. Because I operate out of masculine energy a lot. I'm very much a creator and a producer, but I think the homestead has, for me as a woman, has really helped just to remind me to be still and to be more just accepting of what's going on. Especially nature teaches you really quickly that you're not in control and you can't always muscle things into where you want them to be. And so just learning how to work with the garden, work with the soil, work with the animals has been, I think, one of the biggest benefits I've seen out of this lifestyle. I mean, there's lots of good things, but I really love that aspect of it.
Yeah. And I love that you said, just in general, like homesteading is not necessarily location, but it's more of a state of mind.
It really is. Yeah. And I think people like to compartmentalize it. We like to put things into boxes. And so people always are like, okay, so how many acres do I need to be considered a homestead, or how many animals or chickens or cows, or what is it? And I'm like, no, it's really more an intentional mindset versus always opting for the industrial option. We're just going to think outside of that box. So that's kind of how I define it.
Yeah, I love it. In regards to like technology these days, it's in essence, it's easy to say you live a simple life, but I know, you're doing your thing over there. But it really is. I'm like an old soul, and I sometimes miss like where you're at right now. And
Right.
now that I'm doing this, I could do this from anywhere. It's good to have a place, but like the technology, the AI, it's like it almost like we kind of lose our human touch with all this stuff. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that we're seeing such a push back towards these old fashioned ideas.
Yeah.
2020, it was already starting to become more popular before the pandemic, and then 2020 just made it explode, because people are trying to reconnect with that humanness. And when I look at AI, and I dabbled with AI in my business, and I've been a little curious with it,
Right.
but that's the biggest downfall I see of it, is that we're losing that humanness. We're losing that beautiful imperfection that comes with it. So I'm not opposed to technology. Of course, I'm sitting here in the studio with mics and cameras and Wi-Fi, but I think being able to blend and being conscious of how technology can kind of sweep us away sometime, and how we can be really mindful of getting back in nature, honoring that we are biological beings in a natural world, mixing those two pieces together is really important right now.
I think that's the most beautiful thing I ever heard. Beautiful perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping that maybe, we as humans, like we pendulum, we tend to really swing hard one way or the other. And I'm hoping that maybe we dip way far into this technology, AI world, metaverse, whatever you want to call it. And then we start to seek out that imperfectness and that human touch. And so hopefully maybe the good part of this is that we'll get as far over here as we can, and then decide we actually like it the natural way instead.
I love that. The AI stuff, it's funny because I was always skeptical. I'm big on rapport and connecting like we are right now. I don't care about
Yes.
the world except for this conversation, but it would be ignorant to not lean in a little if it can help us. And I think it's safe to say it's probably not going anywhere. And it is, I've noticed it's a cool brainstorming buddy, but
Yeah.
now like I'll go online and I'll see people like it's so obvious like copy and pasting. Like you'll see like a whole blog, like, do you want to unleash your potential? It's like, come on, like where's the humane side?
Yes. Yes. And I think people can feel it. I mean, you can feel it. I can feel it. I know it's present in food. I was talking to someone on a podcast yesterday about this, that homemade food has a different sort of energy than food made in a factory. And I can't quantify that. And I don't have any, grand scientific studies, but you can feel the difference. And I know that you can feel the difference in content too. So hopefully people will pick up on that.
Yeah, 100%. How many farm animals do you guys have?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Everyone wants to know my chicken count. I do not have a chicken count. They are free range, and so they're never in the same place at one time. So maybe 30 chickens ish, maybe 40, could be 50, not sure.
Wow.
We have about 5 milk cows. We have 6 goats, I think. We have meat chickens and laying chickens, a couple geese, and then we have several hundred beef cattle as a part of our beef operation.
Okay.
So, and some horses too, I guess. Horses and dogs and cats.
You got a couple dogs?
We got 4 dogs. Yes.
Nice. My fiance and I just got one. Love him so much. Hopefully
Yes.
you won't hear him during this episode, but you might. It's a full-time job. I can only imagine you got your hands full with that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the good thing about multiple dogs or multiple animals, well, multiple dogs especially, is they kind of form a pack, and then you just let them kind of.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's like having a bunch of kids. Like one kid feels really hard, but once you have 3 or 4 kids, it's like, they all just kind of run in a big herd. So I don't know. That's how I think of it anyway.
So what I'm receiving from that is it would be advantageous for us to get a second puppy.
I would definitely recommend a second puppy. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to hear right now. I don't know. Puppies are a lot of work. Maybe get through the chewing stage, and then you could add the next one.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
In regards to homestead, like, so it's a mindset. How can someone that maybe lives in Manhattan start to apply that mindset and frequency? Like, what are some actionable tips?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing I always recommend, no matter where you live, is to start with the food. Because whether you're living in Manhattan or you're living in Wyoming, we're all eating every day, probably most of us 3 times a day-ish. and you have a lot of choices around your food. So, for a homesteader like me, I'm growing food. I'm figuring out where to buy food in bulk. I'm figuring out where to buy food local. I'm, bringing in milk from the cow. I'm bringing in eggs from the chickens. You may not be able to do that, but you're still going to be able to rethink ingredients. And if you have a kitchen, most people have kitchens, you're able to cook more from scratch. So maybe that's buying less processed ingredients. Maybe that's buying more local. The benefit to people in bigger cities is they probably have a more robust farmers market and potentially more small local grocery stores or markets than I do. I'm pretty limited when it comes to that. So I'd say start with the food, see how you can get back into your kitchen, see how you can become more familiar with whole food ingredients versus just packaged processed items, and see where that leads you.
I love this. It's so interesting. I love what you're doing. It's so unique. I can only imagine. And also like it kind of forces you to become a little bit more creative and resourceful. Right.
Yes.
There was a time not so long ago where like we had to do some more things for ourselves. Right. And there's something pure and beautiful about that.
It is. And we're really wired for that. There's some pretty interesting studies. I pulled one and put it in my book. There's a doctor named Kelly Lambert, and she wrote a book about how our hands and our brain are wired together, and how when we're doing things with our hands that are beyond tapping a screen or pressing a button, it lights up this whole circuit in our brain and releases all the happy chemicals. And so, we are literally wired to do things with our hands. And so in our modern society, that's often taken away from us in the name of convenience. And I get it. It's nice to have apps and things to make life easier. But I think it's really important that even as busy folks, city dwellers, entrepreneurs, we're still weaving in that manual creation time, whether that's kneading bread or knitting something or planting something in the soil, because it really affects how we feel mentally and physically.
Have you ever used Uber?
I have, not here locally, but when I go travel, I have used Uber. Yes.
Understood. I love the mindset because I'm all about like everyone these days wants to talk about like what do you need to add to be more successful? Hire this or
yeah.
I'm all about like addition by subtraction. Right? Like,
yes.
What do you need to let go of? And oftentimes for me, it's like the need to be perfect or waiting for the right time or the fear of judgment or taking things personally or being something you're not. But you're more of like physical things like that you can let go of to kind of, but it's a similar mindset. It's like, it's not only about adding things to your plate. Sometimes we can actually expand by removing things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a really cool side effect of this homestead mindset, wherever you may live, is when we kind of step back and reevaluate what's important. We start to see how much of the things we think we need or the things we need to keep up with or we're adding to our plate are kind of just societal influences. And it's a lot of marketers, a lot of corporations kind of telling us, you need this, you need to do it this way, keep up with the Joneses, et cetera. So when we can kind of disconnect from that pressure, a lot of it leaves. We don't feel the need to buy as much. We don't feel the need to keep up with, the friends and neighbors and put on the appearances, and life does get simpler. And it's a funny paradox. People look at my life milking a cow and, making things and canning and growing, and they're like, that's not simple. You have more to do than I do. And that's true, but it's a simpler, your body feels more at peace. And so you feel less of that chaos, I guess.
Yeah. I would love to milk a cow with you.
Come on out. We'll do it. It's easier than people think. Once you get the feel of it, it's not too bad.
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually going to set the intention. I would love to do that.
Totally. You're coming through. Just holler. We'll make it happen.
Done and done. I saw that you wrote something and it really surprised me because doing my homework on this episode, because number one, I want to show this conversation to respect and Sarah's, but I'm a fan and I love what you're doing. And I saw you say somewhere that you actually used to resent your garden. Is it true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely been times when I was feeling the crunch of entrepreneurship and all of that, that entails. And the garden felt like an obligation I didn't want to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about entrepreneurship.
Welcome to entrepreneurship. And I think there's like, people have the perception that maybe folks like me are just bounding through the fields, with baskets of produce and our hair flying in the wind all day long. And there's a lot of aspects of this I love, but it's hard. And just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But, there's times when it's 90 degrees and the garden has weeds and I have other things I need to be doing where I don't want to go out and weed, but we get to choose the hard things, and that builds character, and that helps us, we feel better after we do it. So there's all those character lessons to be learned within it.
Hell yeah. When you're doing stuff like that, do you find it therapeutic?
Absolutely. Yeah. The garden is one of my best forms of therapy.
Yeah. Do you work out at all or no?
Say that again.
Do you work out at all?
I do. Yeah. We actually have a little gym in our shop because in the summer, the homestead's great for physical labor and all the things, but in the winter, because our winters are so long, I need to move my body a little bit more than that. So yeah, I still work out in addition to the homestead stuff.
So you guys have a gym?
We do. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you ever run?
I do. I run a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm a runner, but I do. I find that's more like my mental health stress relief. I like to just go out on the roads and go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So the entrepreneurship, I have to ask you because you're extremely successful. You're doing some awesome things. What would you say is the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship? Just curious.
Yeah, there's lots. If you build it, they will come. Like, no, you have to market the crap out of it and then they might come. And yeah, I think the other one that kills me is, on social media, you see a lot of like the laptop life hashtag posts where they're like, look, I'm sitting up at the beach with my drink and my computer and I'm working on my business. And I'm like,
in Bali, like this, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, just like 2 hours ago, I was dealing with a tech problem. My hair's all like sticky and I'm outside and I'm like, head in my hands and I've got 15 windows. I'm like, no, that's the laptop life hashtag. It's like pulling my hair out over tech. There are moments of glamour and excitement, but a lot of it's just grind. But I don't know. I find a lot of joy in it in a sick, twisted way, but it's not quite what people think.
You're my people. We had a crazy week this week. We had some really unpredictable, a couple things that were really challenging. And I was telling somebody before I hopped on with you, it was stressful, but there was something like beautiful and fun about it, like problem solving and like figuring things out and navigating and becoming more resilient and learning and stuff. And I think it takes a special breed to like that stuff and be up with it. But there's something in the weeds, no pun intended, that you really learn about yourself, and it's fun and exciting.
Yeah, I think that personal growth journey is by far one of the best parts. And it's like, as you know, it's not always roses and sunshine. Sometimes it's freaking hard. And you're in the middle of the tech issues or the problems, or you look at the people who are clocking out for the day, their jobs and headed home, and you're like, there is no clock out here. It's till it's done, till we fix this problem. But yeah, when you're wired for it, you're just wired for it.
I love that. There's no clocking out for us.
Yeah. Nope. No clocking out.
Wow, that's good. So do you have a team? Like, are you hiring? Do you have employees?
I do. Yep. I have one, a virtual assistant. She's been with me for almost a decade. She's my right hand. I have lots of contractors who help with websites and podcast editing. We have a full-time employee here on the ranch and a couple interns. And then we have a whole team who runs our restaurant for us. So yeah, we're definitely not doing it alone. We have a great team.
I'm so glad I asked you because we're growing rapidly and we're hiring and scaling, and I found it challenging to delegate because my ego, and I was so like, who's going to wake up as excited about CLS as me? But that's just my ego, and it's a scarcity mindset because you have to be able to trust people to take stuff off your plate so that you can stay in your zone of genius and so far. But I will say it hasn't been super easy to find the right people to build upon, especially because of what you just said. Like this is our life. Like, we love that there's no clock out. Like, it's, sleep, breathe, eat this stuff. It's tough to find those ride or dies.
It is. And they have to have that same mindset as well, to run hard and run fast. And I think in our businesses, especially in the restaurant world, because I have to have more employees there than other places, like the team aspect is one of the most challenging. I think, as I know what I'm capable of, I know I'll stay up till 2 a.m. getting something done. I have all that. I work well with myself, but when you bring in other humans, it gets really complicated. It's necessary, but it's definitely, I think, one of my biggest challenges of the whole journey.
Especially because of what you just said, like, you hold yourself to such a high standard. Like, you would never ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yeah.
But like, where are we going to find someone that has that level of passion for what we do as us?
Yes. Yeah. And like the cliche goes, it's hard to find good help. So, you got to go through some people sometimes, but yeah, when you find them, I'm always like, we got to treat them real good so they'll stay forever.
Yeah. Because hiring done correctly doesn't cost, it pays.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I could talk about entrepreneurship all day with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one of my favorite things to talk about for sure.
Yeah. Do you like, when do you turn it off? You work with your husband, correct?
Yes, he's not super involved in my online stuff. He quit his traditional job in 2015 and came home. He's never going to be a blogger or, you know, like podcaster on my podcast. He has his own podcast. So we run side by side, but he's not necessarily in my businesses, which we're both cool with. But he's helping run the ranch. He's running the beef side of things. And it's just nice to have us both here. So, you know, I'm on calls. He might run to town to do errands, or he's on calls and I can run and manage the house. We kind of tag team a lot of things.
Understood. And then you guys still have a little bit of individuality.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And he likes my brand, but it's not his baby. You know, he's fond of it, but he's not passionate about, you know, teaching people how to bake bread. So I'm like, that's cool. You do your thing. I'll do mine. It's all good.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand that. You have so many cool, exciting things going on right now. Two questions. Number one, what are you most passionate about? And right now, what are you most excited about?
So I'm super excited about the book launch. I think that's just to see what happens with that and get it out in the world. And there's that trepidation of like, I think it's the greatest thing ever. And also like, what if it's crap and no one likes it? You know, that back and forth and back and forth, but super excited about that. I think the thing I'm most passionate about right now is I've just been doing a lot of deep dives. I don't even know how to explain it. I feel like it's just kind of my next layer of evolving as a person into just the connectedness of things, especially in like how we humans relate to the soil and how we're a part of nature. And really owning that piece. I'm doing a lot of reading and a lot of books in that topic and just sinking into that. So, you know, in the quiet times and on the weekends, that's what I'm reading and studying and thinking about, in addition to all the running that we do.
Yeah. So aside from the restaurant and like, what else do you do? Like, if people listening to this right now, like, I want more of her, like, like, can I work with her? Like, how can they possibly get involved?
Yeah. So, I mean, trying to think like in terms of working with, I mean, the podcast is one of the places I love creating for the most. So that kind of has our biggest life updates. If you're in Southeast Wyoming, swing by the restaurant, people can come order beef from us. So kind of depends on what they're looking for, I suppose.
I saw your YouTube channel is awesome.
Thank you. I haven't done YouTube in a while.
Really?
Here's my deep dark secret. I don't like making videos. I find it cumbersome. And I've tried hiring and outsourcing the editing and the filming, and I'd rather podcast. So I forced myself to do it for years, like grinding it out. And finally I'm like, what do you really love to do? It's not video. So I've just let myself put that on the back burner for a while.
Good for you. Yeah. Podcasting is so much fun, right? Like, number one, collaboration and obviously spreading your message, but also like this, because of the podcast is the vessel that you and I connected.
Exactly.
And, awesome.
Yeah. And I love figuring out what my audience likes, but selfishly, it's like, I just get to talk to cool people when I podcast. So it's kind of a selfish motivation, but it's so good.
It's personally fulfilling. Yeah. What have you noticed from your audience, like recently? Like, what do they want to hear about the most from you?
I feel like we're entering a new era together and we're going really deep. So the first, couple years of the podcast was more like, here's how to grow a tomato and here's how to ferment cabbage. And it was very much more practical surface. And now we're getting into, we're trying to get more like experts who can really explain their area of expertise, and the authors who go real deep, and my audience is just eating that up, which makes me happy because that's also where I'm feeling called towards. So the deeper, the better.
I couldn't agree more. Like, if you're looking for service level content, these are not the shows for you.
Yeah, no. And that's not what I listen to. So usually I find what I'm kind of personally drawn to is a good clue of what my audience it might be feeling at the same time for whatever reason.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
In regards to like staying mentally fit and mindset and stuff like that, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to keep yourself sharp, inspired, and expansive?
Yeah, great question. And sometimes some seasons I'm better at it than others.
Sure.
Being outside, I think, is my secret weapon for keeping the creativity flowing. I love to run hard and fast. Like in my businesses, I like to have a lot of irons in the fire, but I have to keep margin in my life. When I do not have margin and I'm just back to back to back, my creativity just goes down the tubes. I just don't have the oomph to create, and my good ideas just don't come. So I have to have margin and stillness. And I need to be outside at least a little bit every day, whether that's in the garden, whether that's on my horse, whether that's just walking down the road. I've been doing a lot of like 4-mile walks at night, just down the road, me and the dog, just thinking. That's the very best way to keep my ideas coming and my brain feeling happy and myself feeling like I'm balanced.
Yeah, I totally get that. For me, I do my best connecting and downloads when I'm running.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's something to be said about getting out of the day to day and getting outside, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, ideas never come when you're sitting at the desk trying to think of an idea. Like they just don't come. You have to go get out. Yeah.
You got to become available.
Totally. Yeah. Moving the body, I feel is, it's just like the hack to make all the ideas just come to you.
Agreed. What will you get into this weekend? Just curious.
In terms of projects?
Just doing your thing, like
just doing things. Yeah.
Like, will you relax a little bit? You have a glass of wine. Like, what's your thing for the weekend after a nice, long, productive work week?
A long, productive week. I'll definitely be out in the garden. Probably listening to a good book or a podcast. That's kind of the ones I save up for my garden time. I think I'd like to take the kids and the horses out for a couple-hour ride on Sunday. Just get out, and that's like one of the most relaxing things for me. And probably reading. Let's reading as much as I can on the porch while the weather is still good here.
I love it. Okay, makes sense. Do you go will you indulge in a cocktail or anything like that?
I actually don't drink. That's just a personal preference of mine. Yeah. But I do love kombucha and all the fizzy fermented stuff. So probably grab one of those.
I think not drinking is probably better off.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a personal preference. I've just never enjoyed the taste of it. But it's kind of funny because I am such a foodie. My friends are like, if you just got into wine, you'd like it so much because it goes with the food and there's a whole thing. I'm like, I know, I just never started. So here we are.
Fair enough. Yeah. In regards to homesteading, I imagine that probably has a much different dynamic just based upon like family life and relationships and stuff like that. What have you noticed, or what can you encourage the listeners to be a little more open-minded to in regards to homesteading compared to like where I am, whatever the case may be, just in regards to your relationships, maybe family dynamics?
Yeah. So I feel like, with my immediate family, it's been one of the best things we've ever done, I think, to raise our kids. And it's just such a natural classroom for them to learn lots of life lessons, a lot of responsibility. It gives me a chance to give the kids a lot more autonomy. And so I've really loved what it's done for them. In terms of my husband and I's relationship, we kind of joke that our love language is projects. We love building together. We love creating together. We love renovating and tackling big, audacious things. And so the homestead, and I think it depends on the people and their personality type. To some, like having to do nonstop projects with your spouse is like a recipe for divorce. But for us, like that's our thing. Like that's what we do to relax. And so like when we bought this place, we were, baby newlyweds, and we've grown up together and grown into the homestead together. That's been, it's kind of been our proving ground for our relationship and figuring each other out and building this life along the way. So it's been really beautiful for us. Again, everyone's different though. So you have to kind of feel it out. Their story won't always look like mine, but it's been right for us for sure.
Do you guys have like a homestead community?
I do more online than local. Like we have a good local friend group, but they're not as homesteader as we are. So there's like ranchers here because we live in a ranching area, but not a lot of people exactly like me. I'm kind of okay running alone on certain things. I'm pretty comfortable being, the weirdo in a group. So I don't need everyone around me who's milking cows and canning tomatoes just like I am. But I do love having a homestead community long distance just to bounce ideas off of. So I think that's really valuable.
I imagine there's someone that's listening right now and it's like, this all sounds cool, but I really don't understand 100% what that means. Homesteading. How would you define that?
Yeah. And that's such a good question, because I think people really try to put it in this really tight box. A lot of folks think it's the historical definition, like where the government actually used to give free land. And that's not, when I say homesteading, that's definitely not what I'm referring to, because you can't get free land anymore, unfortunately. What I would encourage people to think about it in terms of would be intentional over industrial. So if you really want to capture this homestead idea, just think about how you can live life as more of a creator instead of just a consumer, how you can maybe ask yourself, why am I doing it this way? Like, why am I eating this way? Why do I think I have to work in a job I don't like this way? Why do I have to live in this place? Like maybe the answers to those questions will be legit and you'll find new purpose in where you are. Or maybe asking those questions of why you're doing the things you're doing will lead you down a completely different path. I think with your reinvention story, I think you have a lot of that, where sometimes we get so much in ruts in our life, and cultural ruts and societal ruts and personal ruts. So we just never even think about alternatives. And to me, homesteading just invites us to a new awareness of what we're doing and how we're living and what we're eating and all of those things.
A word that you use there that I really love is awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like out here or in some cities like this it's just so go, go, go that it's like almost like you're plugged into the matrix. But like
Yes.
you can become a little bit more, things can slow down a little bit for you. You can become more aware. You can just take a minute and be more present or mindful.
Yes. Maybe you work in an office building in a big city, but on your lunch breaks, you go out and you sit on the grass. You just are grounded in nature for a period of time, or you start to notice the squirrels, and look at and watch them and be aware of them, or you eat more food from the earth instead of food from the factory. And it's just those little shifts in your awareness. They can be pretty big dominoes in a life change if you want them to be.
Yeah, I love this. Well, laying the plan with this, I wanted to ask you because we talked about AI for a minute. And you said that you were leaning in a little bit, but how do you personally create a balance between embracing the traditional homestead practices like you are, but also
Mm-hmm.
incorporating some modern conveniences into your lifestyle as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have, I get asked that question a lot, and I don't have like this formula. Although if I think I did, I would, make millions of dollars off of it. But to me, it's more of like I listen to my intuition, I listen to my gut. So, there's certain appliances in my kitchen, for example. I have a crock pot, I have an Instant Pot. They make my life simpler and they allow me to make more from scratch food. But then there's other aspects of my life, like growing my food in the soil and choosing to can things instead of buy them from the store, that just brings me so much joy, and it lights up that brain hand connection and just makes me feel good. So I just start to be really aware of like, is this action making me feel more alive or more sedated? And then I just kind of let that lead the way. So, podcasting with all of this technology around me makes me feel more alive. I love the connections. I love what I'm learning. And so I'm happy to have that technology in my life. But I know when I watch Netflix, for a couple of hours a day, I feel worse. I feel more sedated. I feel more sluggish. So, I weed that out, but I keep the podcasting in. So I think people just have to be kind of in tune to what their body is telling them and let that guide them.
I love that. And also like podcasts, collaborating and building the community, the brand, all that's productive.
It's productive. Yeah. It's producing, whereas Netflix is
Yeah.
consuming. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like for anyone listening right now, like after a long day, maybe sometimes you want to shut your brain off. We get that. But
Totally get it. Been
yeah,
there. Yep. 100%. Yeah.
in moderation, I would say.
Absolutely.
So, what can you tell us about the book that's coming out?
Yeah. So it's called Old Fashioned on Purpose, and it really kind of encompasses what we talked about today. I realized how beneficial homesteading was to me and how it changed my life. And then I also was kind of sitting with that tension. I know not everyone can move to Wyoming or even wants to move to Wyoming and get milk cows. So I was like, how can I get all this benefit that I have experienced and somehow distill it down so everybody can have a piece of it? And so that's the book. It's 8 steps, kind of this roadmap towards an old-fashioned on purpose life, from your food to what you're doing with your hands to how you can escape the human zoo to how we're engaging in our environment. And it walks you through step by step. So it's a little bit of history, it's a little bit of personal story, a little bit of practical, kind of all rolled into one.
Love that. Like a nice hybrid. And
A good hybrid. Yeah.
yeah, the first book was more of a cookbook.
Yes, it was a strict cookbook, which was fun, but it was all practical. And this one is a little more philosophy driven, which I really wanted to get more into that higher level of thinking about the lifestyle versus just the how to.
Consciousness and mindset and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yes,
I could.
yes,
This has you jazzed.
it does. It's one of those ideas. I'm sure you've experienced it. That not all ideas kind of come to you in a nice package. A lot of them you have to kind of scratch out of the earth, but this one, the day it hit me, I still remember where I was, what I was doing. And it was just like, this is a special, like that you are supposed to put this out into the universe. And so I feel like I've been kind of stewarding it ever since. So I'm really excited for it to be born officially.
So tell us more. When it came to you, where were you? What were you doing?
Yeah, I always get the best ideas in the shower, right? Because we're not assaulted by other people's ideas in the shower. We just are alone with our thoughts. And so the name just came and I got like chills, and I didn't have to workshop the name. That was the name. And I wrote it down in my journal. And then the ideas of, well, what does this mean? What does old fashioned on purpose mean? They just started coming, and they ended up being the chapters, and books change a lot during the editing process. People chop and move, and the book has definitely morphed, but it's fascinating. The title and those chapter pillars never changed. They were just as they were from that day one. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. Not every creation story happens like that, but that one's a good one, I suppose.
I love it. Yes. And when does it come out?
September 26th. And yeah, if people want to pre-order, that's a really big deal for authors. We love the pre-orders. We have a bunch of bonuses that you wait till September to get the book, but you'll get the bonuses right away. So if they go to oldfashionedbook.com, they can check all that out.
Nice. Do you have like a launch team and you do some giveaways, stuff like that?
Yeah, we're gonna do giveaways, and we're working on all kinds of freebies and stuff. So if people are following along with me online or wherever, they'll kind of see what we're gonna offer as we get closer to the launch date.
I want to take a second for the listeners. You guys know I'm extremely intentional and selective with who we collaborate with, who we endorse. She's up to some really cool, exciting things. And as you guys know from our book launch, the pre-orders really do make a big deal. And first and foremost, all the authors, the number one priority is to make an impact and create something special. But do a thing, do it well. It's nice to be able to do the best that we can and have success with it. It gives us more opportunities to create more projects and more contributions, stuff like that. So I would highly encourage you, go grab the pre-order immediately, get the bonuses, dive in, and also grab more than one copy. Grab one for one person also that can benefit.
Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I could talk to you all day. If I'm being honest, there's a side of you that I find, well, there's many sides to you, but one thing specifically that I really align with is that go, that entrepreneur mentality. And it's interesting because someone that might not know you very well might think of like what you're all about, like the homestead stuff, that you didn't have that side to you. But you're this awesome hybrid, and it's pretty cool and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I like having both. I think I need both. I'm wired for both. So it's fun to be able to play in both worlds.
Yeah. And when you relax, that's like you outside in the garden or walking your dog or riding a horse, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still will sometimes just collapse on the couch and veg, but I relax best by movement. And you probably, if you're as a runner, you probably feel that same way. Just like this weird thing. My brain relaxes when I'm moving my body. So it just feels better.
You don't strike me as the type of cat that's gonna just, do nothing all day on a Sunday.
No, I have a hard time with that. People be like, Jill, you need to chill. And I'm like, I am chilling. What? Look at me. I'm walking around the homestead doing things. I'm chilling. But, no, people don't always understand that. But it feels good to me. So
you guys ever go on vacation?
On occasion, it's kind of an ordeal with all the animals, but we'll have people come stay here. And usually vacations are tied into I'm speaking somewhere. It's a business trip. But I do like to leave the homestead a couple times a year.
Yeah, I love this. Just the beginning of the friendship. I'm super excited to do some more stuff with you. Typically, I would end the show with asking how it's the best way for everyone to support you. What are you most excited about? But I think we know the answer for the book and so forth. Yeah. And I'm super excited for you. I know it's not your first one, but we're going through it right now. And it's just, it's all the feels. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a big project, but most importantly, it's part of your legacy, right? Like you're giving to something for the world. And I want to congratulate you. That's awesome. I can't wait to read it myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm excited for yours as well. So yeah, we're kind of book launch twins right now. So
that's it. I guess I should ask you one final thing. What's one really cool recipe that you can give to the audience that maybe they can experiment with?
Oh man. Here's a quick one. So you don't have to like write it down. Go get a whole chicken. I know a lot of people do chicken breast or chicken nuggets. Go get the whole chicken. Take it out of the wrapper, cover it in salt. Like I'm talking copious amounts of salt, more than you think you need. Put it in your refrigerator in a pan with no covering on it.
Okay.
Leave it in there for a day or 2 or 3. It's going to look kind of like a mummy when it's done. Then it looks weird. Like trust the process, and then put it in the oven and roast it. Like you can find instructions on my blog or other people's websites for roasting a chicken, and it will be the most juicy, flavorful chicken you've ever had in your life. That salt is magic. So that's one of my favorite tricks. That's so easy, but I think most people undersalt things. So they're shocked when they try it.
That sounds scrumptious. Does it have a particular name?
Nope. Just salty roasted chicken.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Fair enough.
All I got.
Thank you so much. Jill, hang up for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. I want you to know the definition of authenticity, creativity, and unbelievable energy. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That was awesome.
Yay. That was super fun. Yeah.
And try to make them different. And, I don't know about you, but one thing that I don't love at this point is getting asked the same questions every time. Tell us how you got here. Tell us about
Yes.
right. It's like,
Yes.
God.
Yeah, no, I love the ones that are off the beaten path, and that certainly was. So thank you for that.
And then also
Yeah.
like be open to where the conversation's going.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's where you get into the good stuff.
100%.
Yes.
I love to do some more stuff with you and stay connected.
Yes. Would you be open to coming on my podcast potentially?
I would love to.
Okay. And because I was thinking, I mean, I'm open to whatever angle, but if so many of my audience are moving and changing careers and doing different things after COVID.
Yeah.
So we could talk about reinventing, how to reinvent yourself. And then we could roll into your book, talk about that. So
I would love that.
Okay. I'll reach out to Alex and set that up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. And then I'll also get a book, one of my pre-copies sent to you too. I'll get your address and stuff through Alex.
Yeah. So. And did we send you one of ours?
I don't think so, not yet, but I'd love a copy. Yeah, I would love to. I can definitely blast it out there. You said it's going out next week. It's publishing next week.
It's officially live next week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll take care.
I'd love to blast that out to my audience for sure.
Yeah. And anything, please, let's take anything I can do to support you. At all.
Ditto. Yeah. I think this is a great beginning of a great collaboration. So let's keep in touch and see where it leads.
100%. Can we exchange numbers?
Absolutely. Yes.